Hey guys, Anna here. Welcome to today's video and welcome to another speed build. Today we're in the world of Willow Creek and we are yet again on one of my favorite lots, which is kind of in the same neighborhood as where the Pancakes family home is in Willow Creek. And today's build is a very colorful 3x2 base game only family home. This build came together super quick. I did get the exterior of the build off of Pinterest, and then I just created a very simplistic floor plan. And I actually really love the floor plan on this particular build. So it's very bright, and the actual, you might be able to see it. There is a house that is next door to this build that I also decorated, and you can kind of see it through as we're building the shell of this particular build, and it's that beautiful pastel green. So I wanted to kind of run with that theme, and I decided to make this house a really bright sunny yellow, and I think that it just pairs really well with the neighborhood and the street. And I honestly love how this build turned out. It feels so warm and happy. The shape of the house is actually super simple. It's mostly just a square, and then I added on a few small bump outs to give it a bit more interest and to avoid it looking too boxy. So bump outs give you shape and they add dimension, and it prevents your build just looking like a square with a roof, which is kind of like a running joke. If you've it's like all of our first Sims 4 builds are just like a big square with a roof on it. And that's, yeah, I was like that once upon a time too. And I think that it's actually, when you have a square, the floor plan of like in a square is so much harder than with a house that has bump outs. Bump outs naturally create rooms. So for example, this small bump out off the side where the chimney is, you could put a bathroom there. You could actually make that be a living room where the fireplace goes. Or, maybe it's a bedroom. Maybe, in this build, it's a bathroom. So that kind of goes with what I was saying. And yeah, this build came together super quickly because of that, which is always so satisfying to have a really simplistic build. As a builder, I like it when things just flow and come together. Some builds take a sitting like 2 hours to build. Some take 6 or 8. So, this was definitely a quicker build. For the layout, I decided to go with a more closed floor plan. I know open floor plans are really popular, but I personally love having a dedicated front sitting room. It makes a space feel a bit more realistic and cozy to me. I grew up in a house where it was a very closed floor plan and we had a front sitting room. In fact, the house that I currently live in has a front sitting room. It's a little bit more open, the house I live in, but I still like that idea, and I don't do it quite often. And yeah, I thought I would do that. I also made sure to include 2 bathrooms placed on opposite sides of the house, which just makes it easier for gameplay, because if you've got a full household, it's just easier for the bathrooms to be situated where the bedrooms are. So in this particular build, you have 2 bedrooms on the right side with its own bathroom, and then a bedroom on the left side with its own bathroom. All right, we are starting the decorating with the kitchen, which you kind of enter in and you have this open kind of hallway space that kind of acts as like a T-junction, and towards the back door, which I guess is the top of the T, is where the kitchen is, where I am now. And I said this is a base game only build. It is available on the Sims 4 gallery, so if you'd like to download and play in this build, it would make a really good, maybe, I don't think it's a starter home price, so it'd be a good step up from a starter home. So you know how like you play the game and you get a bit of simoleons, maybe like 30 to 40k, you would be able to afford this house. So I always say that this is probably the next step up. So maybe your Sims have gotten married, maybe they've had their first baby. This would be a good size home for that type of Sim family. Or you could just cheat the money and then get another house. But I feel like if you're going to cheat and get money that way, you might as well get like a really grand house. I don't know. Depends on the type of story you want to, tell. with your Sims. Let me know in the comment section down below, are you guys big storytellers? I'm not really a good big storyteller. Definitely my creative flair is, I guess, building. And I do really like the fashion aspect of Create a Sim. I think it's really fun to come up with outfits and stuff. And I do think that certain packs have better Create a Sims and build and buys. And I think I've definitely done a series a couple of years ago, maybe last year actually, where I did a limited build series where I went through every expansion pack, and that plus base game, we did a couple of builds. And I definitely had some favorites expansion packs. And also, if you're an avid Anna watcher, when I do my builds where I don't have any form of restrictions, the assets I always come back to are clearly my favorites. And definitely want to do some builds where I potentially use some things that I don't normally use. I think that would be super cool. All right, we have spoken over the entire of that living room. So we had the front sitting room where you've got my favorite base game couch, put in a fireplace. We did have a chimney in this build, but yeah, a fireplace. And we are now into the bathroom. So again, base game, I've used the same tile that's used in the kitchen. I really like to do that. It's one of the ways that I make my home and decorating more cohesive is when I use a repeat of a wallpaper or a texture, in this case the tile, and also certain colors throughout the build. So I've used a lot of that blue and beige. So I've also used it in some of the bedrooms and some of the bathrooms and stuff. As I said, this is a base game only build, and I think that you really can build such a really lovely home with base game only just because of all of those events that we've had, all of the updates that we've had over the years. Definitely remember doing base game only builds when I first started building, and they were much harder than this. But I do think a good floor plan for a Sims player is so important. So even if you wanted to gut this build, you could redecorate the entire thing. You could download it unfurnished, and it's just a solid floor plan. I love a one-story house. I think for playing the game, it makes it so much easier. Okay, we are into the second bedroom, which is a child's room. So I've kind of spoken over the master bedroom. So when you walk into the build, to the right hand side, you have a master bedroom, a bathroom. You have this girls' child's room, which is what we're doing now. I could have made this into a twins room because it was actually quite spacious. This could have easily been a teens room or maybe a twins child's room. I often do those. But I think it's kind of good to have a decent sized bedroom, because if you were to download this build and add in other packs, there are so many activities now for children that having a large bedroom makes sense, because then they have room to play. I, of course, put in a nursery. So the third and final bedroom in this build is a nursery. And I've gone in with that because, as I said, I really felt that this build is perfect for a small family. Whether that is a newly married and they're just starting out, or whether it is a Sims family where you're like, I probably am going to have a family of 4, maybe even a pet, who knows. This is like the perfect home, and it's pretty affordable. I think that it's definitely, I think it's around 45k. Don't quote me on that, but as I said, it is on the gallery if you'd like to download it. And also, if this is the type of content you really enjoy watching and seeing, and this is the type of builds that you like to play in and see and kind of enjoy, please consider subscribing to my channel. I would love to have you join the Anna family, and leave a like and a comment on today's build and tell me what you like about this build, what I could have done better, or, just what your thoughts are on today's build. We are outside with the landscaping, and how I start my landscaping is I like to map out with my terrain paint. So I do my paths, I do my fencing, I map out where the dirt is, and this helps me plan out my landscaping in terms of sectioning it. Where am I going to put trees? Where am I going to put bushes? Where are the flowers going to go? Okay, where am I going to have an entertainment area? Am I going to put a pool in? it allows me to really map that out and kind of see how I want to decorate it. Because to me, like having a big blank open backyard terrifies me, and I just feel the need to fill it. And I do see some simmers where they've got backyards and they have the most intricate backyards, and I think they're beautiful, but it's not really my style of building. To me, like my Sims barely use the backyard. I don't know about your Sims, but mine barely use the backyard. And I always include objects that are complementary to gameplay and that are just really realistic to gameplay. Like if I'm not going to add a whole bunch of stuff that's just going to make your game run slower because the game has to load it, and that you're not going to use. There's nothing worse than that. And obviously you want the build to be completely functional, which I will say that a lot of my builds are, and I really pride myself on building and designing things that you can play in them. All right, so I've kept the landscaping very minimal. I don't want to pull away from the bright sunny yellow wallpaper, but I've gone in with very complementary colors. Pink and yellow go so well together, so I've gone in with these beautiful pink hydrangeas. The ley-lowing flowers which have yellow in them, which obviously is going to be complementary to the yellow sliding in the home, and just some shrubs. Gone in with a little gardening area. I do think I put in some monkey bars, and obviously that seated area, that pathwed areas where we're going to put in a grill and a table. And yeah, this is just the backyard. It's a very small backyard because I think with this home, the thing is with this lot in particular is we've used up a lot of the lot for the house. So it's a very spacious house. This is not a very, it's a closed floor plan, but it's very, the rooms are quite big. And I think that I prefer this over a house which is maybe a bit smaller. All right, we are live in game and we're going through the tour. So on the front porch, you have a chess table, but I think we also have one inside potentially. You walk in and you head to the kitchen. I love this kitchen, very simplistic. As I said, the pops of yellow and blue we do use throughout the entire build, and it pairs really well with that beige base game wallpaper that, if you look closely, has like a floral print. And there's just something about this house that's very inviting and calming. It's got a very like calming color scheme. All right, so in the master bedroom, you have a computer and just a very simplistic bedroom. That's bathroom number 1. You then have the child's room, very spacious in there. You then have a nursery. You head down to the left side of the build, right side, sorry. And you have that front sitting room, which I just absolutely love. It's not too spacious in there, but it's still a formal like sitting room. Okay, and this is embarrassing. I forgot to decorate the second bathroom. Usually I decorate my second bathrooms off camera, but I must have forgotten. So we're just going to quickly throw some things together. I used the kitchen cabinetry that was in the kitchen, which I think I used in the other bathroom as well. And I've got a shower tub combo, and I've just gone in with a basic sink, and I probably used an identical mirror from the other bathroom. And I'll just be adding in a toilet, and I'll probably be adding all of those little accessories like your toilet roll holder, and maybe even, yep, a rug. I'll just copy the one from the other bathroom. I use the teardrop feature all the time in decorating, by the way, because it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. All right, so I think we're just adding in like a towel rail. Yep. And then we're going to be heading back towards the back of the property. You have an easel on the porch. You have a sitting area. You have a gardening area. You have some monkey bars. You have your bin around the corner. And that is the build. Very simplistic, base game only build. And I think I am adding in a chimney piece. I just feel like this house might need something like that. I don't usually add them. Looks like I was having some trouble here. Yep. I probably delete it in the end. Yep. Sometimes it's too hard basket and I just don't bother with it. I'm just going to fix the roof ever so slightly. And that is the build today, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's build. It's quite a short one. And I will see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.